Kingdom Protista. All single-celled eukaryotes are placed under protista. What is meant by eukaryotes? Eukaryotes means a cell structure in which there is well-developed nucleus with membrane-bound organelles. These are single-celled eukaryotes which placed under protista. But the boundaries of this kingdom are not well defined. Eukaryotes have well-defined nucleus and cell membrane, but in this kingdom protista, the boundaries of this kingdom is not well defined. This kingdom protista includes chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, and protozoans under protista. Members of protista are primarily aquatic. Means what? Primarily they were aquatic. Aquatic means what? These organisms used to live in water. This kingdom forms link between other dealing with plant, animal and fungi. Being eukaryotes, the protista cell body contains well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. I have told you earlier that eukaryotes have well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Some have flagella and cilia. Flagella and cilia are the body structure which gives motility to the organism. Motility to the organism means what? This organism with the use of flagella and cilia can move from one place to another. This is called motility, and organ of motility is flagella and cilia in kingdom protista. Protists reproduce asexually and sexually by process involving cell fusion and zygote formation. There is a fusion of two gametes, male gamete and female gamete, and formation of zygote in sexual reproduction, and they also produce asexually. So this is the information about kingdom protista. You have to keep in mind that in kingdom protista there is single cell eukaryotes. They used to live in aquatic. They used to live in water, means they are primarily aquatic. And kingdom protista include chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime mold, protozoan. Okay, and they reproduce by sexually and asexually. Sexually by the formation of zygote and cell fusion. Kingdom protista contains flagella and cilia for motility. They can move from one place to another with the use of flagella and cilia. Next is chrysophytes. Chrysophytes. This group includes diatoms and golden algae. Golden algae is also called as desmids. They are found in fresh water as well as marine environments. They are microscopic. Float passively in water currents, plankton. Means what? When we see a water, we see something there is floating on the surface of water. These are called planktons, and they are microscopic. They found in fresh water as well as marine environment. Most of them are photosynthetic, means they float on water and used to take sunlight for the production of energy or food. So they are called photosynthetic. In diatoms, the cell wall form two thin overlapping shells. The cell wall forms two thin overlapping shells which fit together as a soap box. Imagine a soap box which has two overlapping shells which fit together and form a soap box. So the structure of diatom is like soap box and it has overlapping shells. The walls are embedded with silica and thus forms indestructible. So the cell wall of diatoms are embedded with silica and thus they are indestructible. Means what? When they fit together, the cell wall of these diatoms, when fit together, it forms a soap box, and that cell wall has silica, and because of this silica they are indestructible, means they cannot be destructed. Thus, diatoms have left behind large amount of cell wall deposits in their habitat. So, we know that the habitat of these diatoms are freshwater and marine environment. So, in freshwater, diatom has left large amount of cell walls. This accumulation over billion of years is referred to as diatomaceous earth. Because of this deposition, it is also called as diatomaceous earth. Being gritty, this soil is used for polishing. Silica is gritty in appearance. Because of this, it is used for polishing, filtration of oils, syrups. We know the syrups are very colorful. For this coloring, the soil is used. This silica soil is used for filtration of oils, syrups, and for polishing. Diatoms are chief producer in oceans. Because of these diatoms, there is production of polishing substances. So it is a chief producer in ocean. So you have to keep in mind about chrysophytes. Chrysophytes, they include diatoms and golden algae. Golden algae is also called as desmids. They found in what is the habitat of these chrysophytes, found in fresh water as well as marine water. They are microscopic, okay, and they float passively on water. So it is called plankton. Question may ask which algae float in water. So there is answer must be golden algae, chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, etc. Most of they are photosynthetic. You have to keep in mind chrysophytes are photosynthetic. And go through this, the cell wall of diatoms is made up of silica and they are indestructible. And the soil of this soil which contains silica is used for polishing, filtration of oil and syrups, and diatoms are the chief producers in ocean. Dinoflagellates, these organisms are mostly marine and photosynthetic. Habitat is marine and they are photosynthesis, means depend on sunlight for energy. They appear yellow, green, brown, blue and red depending upon the main pigment present in their cells. Dinoflagellate cells have various pigments. So many of them are yellow, green, blue, brown and red. You have to learn these 5 colors: yellow, green, brown, blue and red depending upon the pigments present in their cell. They may be of yellow color, they may be of green, brown, blue and red as per their pigments present in their cells. The cell wall has steep cellulose plates on their outer surface. The cell wall of these dinoflagellates have cellulose in their plates on outer surface. Most of them have 2 flagella. So this is most important. Dinoflagellates have 2 flagella. One flagella lies longitudinally, means throughout its length, and one flagella lies transversely in furrow between wall plates. So see in diagram number 1, you will see one flagella is longitudinally means present throughout its length. It is visible in diagram and it is visible in diagram A, point A. And one flagella lies in furrow between two cell plates, between two wall plates. Very often, red dinoflagellates, for example, gonolax. Please keep in mind this question is asked earlier about red dinoflagellates, and red dinoflagellates is also called as gonolax, and gonolax has a multiplication property, and gonolax appears see red in color. It is also called as red tides, and these red tides used to secrete some toxins, and because of these toxins the marine fishes and many other organisms which used to live in water, they were killed by these toxins. So it is also called as red tides, and example is gonolax. Gonolax undergo such rapid multiplication that they make sea appear red, so it is called as red tides. Toxins released by such large number may kill other marine animals such as fishes. So from these dinoflagellates, they may ask about red dinoflagellates, and example of this red dinoflagellate is gonolax. And what does the gonolax do? Gonolax go rapid multiplication and makes appear sea red and secretes some toxins, and this toxin kills marine animals such as fishes. And this dinoflagellate may be yellow, green, brown, blue or red depending upon the pigments present in their cells, and it has two flagella. One lies longitudinally and another lies transversely between the two furrows, between the two plates. The next is euglenoids. Majority of euglenoids are freshwater organisms found in stagnant water. Most of them are freshwater and found in stagnant water also. Instead of cell wall, they have protein-rich layer called pellicle, which makes the body flexible. Most important, and question may ask from here, the euglenoid cell wall is made up of protein-rich layer called as pellicle, which makes the body flexible. It has two flagella, one short and one long. See in diagram B. This is euglenoids, and it is similar to 𝐵𝑚 also. It's look like 𝐵𝑚, but it has flagella and two flagella, one long and one short. So you can see here it has shown upper one is long flagella and next is short flagella. Though they are photosynthetic in the presence of light, when deprived of sunlight they behave like heterotrophs by predating on other small organisms. Means they are photosynthetic in presence of sunlight only. When there is no sunlight, they behave like heterotrophs. Heterotrophs means what? Depend on another organism for food. So they depend on smaller organisms, other smaller organism for food. Interestingly, the pigments of euglenoids are identical to those of higher plants. For example, euglena. So the example of euglenoid is euglena. It is easy to remember. Example of euglenoid is euglena. So what you have to focus here in euglenoids, that the cell wall of euglenoids is made up of protein rich layer called pellicle. Next, it has two flagella, short and long flagella, and because of this pellicle, euglenoids has a flexibility, means their body can move. It has flexible body because of pellicle, and this pellicle is what? It is a cell wall made up of protein, and the example of this is euglena. Slime molds. Slime molds are saprophytic protists. What is meant by saprophytic? Saprophytic, these are the organisms which cannot prepare their own food. They depend on dead and decaying matter for their food. They depend on dead or decaying part. The body moves along decaying twigs and leaves, engulfing organic material. For example, in forest, wherever there is a dead or decaying part, those decaying part, this slime mold move through that decaying part and engulf all the decaying part which is present on the surface. So the body moves along the decaying twigs, means whenever the body moves through any decaying substance and it engulfs all the decaying material and cleans that surface. So it is called as decaying twigs and leaves engulfing organic material. Under suitable condition, they form an aggregation called plasmodium, which may grow and spread over several feet. Means what? Whenever there is a suitable condition, it forms an aggregation called plasmodium. Plasmodium means what? It is spore-like condition and they grow and spread over several feet. During unfavorable condition, this plasmodium differentiate into fruiting bodies bearing spores at their tips. So they form a fruiting bodies at their tips, and they form fruiting bodies and spores at their tips. The spore possess true walls, and they are extremely resistant and survive for many years even under adverse conditions. The spores are dispersed by air currents. So what happened here? These slime molds are saprophytics, means what? They depend on decaying part or dead organisms. So whenever this slime mold's body moves through decaying part, it engulfs that decaying part and clears that way. Under suitable condition, they form an aggregation that is called plasmodium, when which may grow. That plasmodium grow into several feet. Okay, and when there is a unfavorable condition, this plasmodium differentiate into fruiting bodies. Means what? This plasmodium forms fruiting bodies, and that fruiting bodies has spores in their tips. These spores possess true walls and they are extremely resistant and survive for many years. These spores are extremely resistant, means what? They remain as it is for several years under adverse condition. These spores are dispersed by air currents, means whenever there is flow of wind, they are dispersed. Okay, so in slime molds, please keep in mind that they are purely saprophytic and their body moves through decaying twigs. Next is there is a formation of aggregation of plasmodium. Next is it has spores and these spores possess true walls. This is also most important question. The slime molds has spores which contains true walls. Next is the spores are dispersed by air currents and they may survive for several years. You can see the diagram figure C, figure 2.4. Third diagram, slime mold. Next is protozoans. All protozoans are heterotroph and live as predator or parasites. They are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs means what? They depend on another organism for food. They are believed to be primitive relatives of animals. They are of four groups of protozoans. Four groups of protozoans. First is amoeboid protozoans. Second is flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoan and sporozoans. These are four types. So let's see amoeboid protozoan. These organisms live in fresh water, sea water or moist soil. So in amoeboid protozoan, these organisms live in fresh water, sea water as well as in moist soil. They move and capture their prey by putting out pseudopodia, means false feet, as in amoeba. Whenever this amoeboid protozoan move, through the surface, it captures its prey. It captures its prey by putting out pseudopodia. Pseudopodia is a false feet. It is a cover of the body which put their cover throughout the spray and capture that prey whenever they move through the surface. For example, amoeba. Marine forms have silica shells on their surface. Some of them, such as ant amoeba and parasites, we have seen earlier silica in chrysophytes. We have learned about silica in chrysophytes. Here is also mention of silica. Silica is mentioned that marine forms and silica on their surface. Some of them, such as ant amoeba and parasite. So the examples of amoeboid protozoans are amoeba, ant amoeba and parasites. So what they do, whenever they want to capture their prey, it put out pseudopodia. Pseudopodia means what? False feet. For example, it is present in amoeba and ant amoeba and parasites. Ant amoeba are the parasites. Next is flagellated protozoans. The member of this group are either free living or parasitic. Flagellated protozoans, it may be free living or parasitic. Okay. For example, there is trypanosoma. They have flagella. The parasitic form cause disease such as sleeping sickness. Trypanosoma is a disease. It forms a sleeping sickness. Means whenever this flagellated protozoans cause a parasitic disease, it causes sleeping sickness in human beings, and example is trypanosoma. Next is ciliated protozoans. These are aquatic, actively moving organism because of the presence of thousands of cilia. Cilia is an organ of motility. Motility means what? They can move from one place to another. So the name suggests ciliated protozoans means what? They have thousands of cilia. They are aquatic. They can move from one place to another with the help of this cilia. They have a cavity called gullet that opens to the outside of cell surface. Gullet is present and it opens outside the cell surface. A coordinated movement of rows of cilia causes water laden with food to be steered into the gullet. For example, paramecium. So listen here. the cell surface has gullet. The outside cell surface has gullet. Whenever this organism move from here to there, means to and fro movement is there, and through that the food is steered, means food goes into the gullet. And this example is paramecium. The ciliated protozoan has example of paramecium. Then last is sporozoans. Sporozoans, this include diverse organisms that have an infectious spore-like stage in their life cycle. The most notorious is Plasmodium malarial parasite, which has malaria, a disease which has staggering effect on human population. It has infectious spore-like stage. It is a malarial parasite called Plasmodium, and it has staggering effect on human population. So from here you have to learn only the sporozoans has spore-like stage, and spore-like stage. Next is malarial parasite called Plasmodium, and from ciliated protozoan you have to uh, keep in mind about the example of ciliated protozoans, that is paramecium. And next is the body cavity. The body has outer gullet which help for exchange of food materials. So the examples of ciliated protozoan is paramecium. Next is flagellated protozoans. The example of flagellated protozoans is trypanosoma. It causes a disease called sleeping sickness. So they may ask question like sleeping sickness is caused by. So you must know about flagellated protozoans, and examples of this flagellated protozoans is trypanosoma. Previously asked question from flagellated protozoans. Next is amoeboid protozoans. So from here they may ask question about examples of amoeboid protozoans like entamoeba, amoeba, etc. And it has pseudopodia, false feet, in amoeboid protozoans. So in protozoan we have seen amoeboid protozoan, flagellated protozoan, ciliated protozoan, and sporozoan. From the examples of amoeboid protozoan is entamoeba, flagellated protozoan, trypanosoma. It also causes a disease like sleeping sickness. Ciliated protozoan example is paramecium, and sporozoans example is malarial parasite Plasmodium. Let's see what we have seen in kingdom Protista. So in kingdom Protista, these are eukaryotes, single cell eukaryotes. Next is it contains chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds, protozoans under Protista. It has flagella and cilia. Next is chrysophyte. Chrysophytes is also called as diatoms or golden algae. Then they are microscopic, float passively in air current. Next is the walls are made up of silica. They are indestructible, and it is useful for polishing, filtration of oils and syrups. Next is they are the chief producers in oceans. Then dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates are yellow, green, brown, blue, and red color depending upon their pigments. Next is the red dinoflagellates, for example guanolax. It appears the sea red and release the toxins which kills marine organisms like fishes. And it has two flagella, one lies longitudinally and another lies transversely between the two plates. Next is euglenoids. Means what? In dinoflagellates you have to remember that it has an example of gonolax. It is also called as red tides. The next is euglenoids. Euglenoids has the most important point that they are having cell wall which is made up of protein rich layer called pellicle, and it gives a flexibility to the body of this organism. It has two flagella, one short, one long, and example of this euglenoids is euglena, easy to remember. Then slime molds, they are saprophytic protist. This is most important. Then you must know about this plasmodium. Then this plasmodium in unfavorable condition differentiate into fruiting bodies. Then the fruiting bodies has spores at their tips, and these spores has true walls, and these spores may survive for many years, and they are dispersed by wind or air currents. Then you have to remember these diagrams too. Go through the diagrams. They may ask about uh, paramecium, and they may give a diagram of euglena also. So keep in mind that euglena has flagella and paramecium diagram do not have flagella. So this is the differentiating point between euglena and paramecium. Don't confuse in this those diagram, because they may go to ask about this. Next is protozoan. In protozoan, just remember about four groups of protozoan. Amoeboid protozoan with the example of entamoeba, flagellated protozoan with the example of trypanosoma, it causes the disease sleeping sickness. Third is ciliated protozoan with the example of paramecium. Last is sporozoans. It causes the disease like uh, malarial parasite by plasmodium, which cause malarial parasite staggering effect on human population. The next is kingdom fungi. Fungi constitute a unique kingdom of heterotrophic organism. What is meant by heterotrophic? Heterotrophic means what? These organisms depend on another organism for food purpose. They do not prepare their own food by self, so they are dependent on another. They show great diversity in morphology and habitat. You must have seen fungi on moist bread and rotten fruit. In our daily routine of life, we see many fungi on bread, fruits, etc. The common mushroom we eat and toadstool are also fungi. When we eat this mushroom, this is also a type of fungi. Next is white spot seen on mustard leaves are due to parasitic fungi. Okay, some unicellular fungi, example yeast. Keep in mind, yeast is a unicellular fungi, are used to make bread and beer. The another fungi cause disease in plants and animals. Wheat rust causing Puccinia is an most important example. So they may ask about unicellular fungi. The example is yeast, and it is used to prepare bread and beer. The next one, that wheat rust causing Puccinia, it is an most important example. Some of the sources of antibiotics like penicillin, it is also prepared from fungi. Fungi are cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan means what? They are present everywhere, occur in air, water, soil, and animals and plants. Means they are omnipresent, they are present everywhere. So here you have to keep in mind about it is also a source of antibiotics. Example is penicillin. Then next is, with the exception of yeast, which are unicellular fungi, are filamentous. Yeast are unicellular fungi, they are filamentous. The bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structure called hyphae. This unicellular yeast, it has a body which has thread-like structure. It is called hyphae. The network of hyphae is called mycelium. Some hyphae are continuous tube filled with multinucleated cytoplasm. These are called choanocytic hyphae. So listen here. Yeast is an exception, which are unicellular fungi, are filamentous, and the fungi body consists of long, slender, thread-like structure. It is called as hyphae, and this hyphae has network that is called mycelium, and this mycelium is filled with multinucleated cytoplasm, and this cytoplasm with multinucleus is called as choanocytic hyphae. Others have septa or cross walls in their hyphae. The cell walls of fungi are composed of chitin and polysaccharide. The most important question from fungi are: the cell wall of fungi is made up of chitin and polysaccharide. Most fungi are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrate and hence are called saprophytes. They are heterotrophic. We know they depend for food on others, and they absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrates. Means what? They depend on dead or decaying part for organic matter, for absorption of organic matter, and they, for this purpose, they are also called as saprophytes. Those that depend on living plant and animals are called parasites. Means what? Fungi are heterotrophs. When they are depend on dead or decaying organism, they are called saprophytes. When they used to depend on living organism or animals or intestines of human beings, they are called as parasites. When they can also live as symbionts. Symbionts means what? In association with algae as lichens and root of higher plant at as mycorrhiza. Means what? They form a symbiotic association. Means when they association with algae, means what? Fungi and algae as lichens, and fungi with the root of higher plants like mycorrhiza. They form a symbiotic association with algae also and with higher plants like mycorrhiza also. Means what? What is meant by symbiotic association? Symbiotic association means what? This fungi depend on algae for nutrition, and this algae depend on fungi for any other purpose. Means they facilitate each other for their needs. So for example is what? Fungi with algae as lichens, fungi with roots of higher plants as mycorrhiza. These are the examples of symbiotic association. Then reproduction in fungi can take place by vegetative means fragmentation, fission and budding. So they can reproduce by vegetative means, by the means of fragmentation, by the means of fission and budding. So asexual reproduction is by spore called conidia. In fungi, asexual reproduction is by production of spores, and that spores are called as conidia or sporangiosperm or zoospore. And sexual reproduction is by oospore, ascospore, basidiospore. So keep in mind that asexual reproduction is by spores, and that spores are called as conidia, sporangiospores and zoospores. And sexual reproduction is by oospores, ascospores and basidiospores. The various spores are produced in distinct structure called fruiting bodies. Means various spores are produced in some distinct structure, and that structure is called fruiting bodies. Means what? Fruiting body, these are the structure in which spores are produced. See, the sexual cycle involves following 3 steps. So, before starting this sexual cycle, keep in mind that sexual reproduction is by oospore, ascospores and basidiospore. The first point is fusion of protoplasm between two motile or non-motile gametes are called plasmogamy. Means what? There is a fusion between two motile or two non-motile gametes called plasmogamy. Fusion of two nuclei called karyogamy. Meiosis in zygote resulting in haploid spores. So the 3 points are: what is plasmogamy? Fusion of protoplasm with two motile or two non-motile gametes. What is meant by karyogamy? Fusion of two nucleus. And when there is fusion of two nucleus, the meiosis in zygote result in haploid spores, means single N. When fungus reproduce sexually, two haploid hyphae of compatible mating types come together and fuse. When there is sexual reproduction, two haploid hyphae means what? Haploid means single N come together and form 2N. Compatible mating types come together and fuse. Some fungi, the fusion of two haploid cells immediately result into diploid cells. See here, haploid means what? Single N. These two single N comes together, it form a diploid cells. It is called diploid cells 2N. However, in other fungi like Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes, an intervening dikaryotic stage N plus N, that is 2 nuclear per cell occur. Such a condition is called dikaryon and the phase is called dikaryophase of fungi. So listen here, in other fungi such as Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes, the intervening dikaryotic stage like N plus N, that is 2 nuclei per cell occurs. Such condition is called dikaryon and the phase is called dikaryophase. Later, parental nuclei fuse and cells become diploid. The fungi form fruiting bodies in which reproduction division occurs, leading to the formation of haploid spore. So in fungi fruiting bodies, reduction division occurs. Reduction division means what? When there is a reduction between 2N leading to the formation of haploid spores, means single N is formed. The morphology of mycelium, mode of spore formation and fruiting bodies form the basis for the division of kingdom into various classes. So from here you have to keep in mind, from kingdom fungi, they are heterotrophic organism. Next is the mushrooms, like toadstool and toadstools. Mushroom and toadstools are also a fungi. Next is unicellular fungi, example yeast. Next one is wheat rust causing Puccinia is an example of wheat rust. Then source of antibiotics, example penicillium. Then next is they are cosmopolitan. Fungi are cosmopolitan, means what? They are present in air, water, soil, everywhere. Then next is exception of yeast, which are unicellular fungi, are filamentous. Next is it is having long slender thread like structure called hyphae. This hyphae has network called mycelium. This mycelium is filled with multinucleated cytoplasm. These are called choanocytic hyphae. The septae are cross walls in their hyphae. The next is the cell wall of fungi are composed of chitin and polysaccharide. Most important question. The cell wall of fungi is made up of chitin and polysaccharide. Most fungi are heterotrophic. They are heterotrophic means they depend on others for food, means sometimes they are saprophytes, means depend on dead or decaying parts. Sometimes they are parasites. Parasites means what? They depend on living organisms and animals, for example in intestine of human being. Sometimes they show symbiotic association, means they form an aggregation with algae as lichens, and sometimes with higher plant as a mycorrhiza. So we can say that fungi plus algae is equal to lichens, and fungi plus roots of higher plants is equal to mycorrhiza. These are the symbiotic association between fungi and other organism. Reproduction in fungi is by vegetative fragmentation, fission and budding. Next is asexual reproduction is by spores called conidia or sporangiosperm, zoospore. They may ask question like asexual reproduction in fungi is called as. The answer is conidia, sporangiosperm, zoospore. And sexual reproduction is by oospore, ascospore and basidiospore. Spore producing spore producing structure called fruiting bodies. Next is sexual cycle involves. In sexual cycle there are three stages. First is called first is plasmogamy. Plasmogamy means what? Fusion of gametes. Fusion of two motile or non-motile gametes is called plasmogamy. Karyogamy, fusion of two nuclei. Next is meiosis in zygote results in haploid spores. After that, uh, dikaryophase. Dikaryophase of fungi means what? The dikaryo stage n plus n, that is 2n per cell, occurs in such a condition called dikaryon. The phase is called dikaryophase. Then Phycomycetes, this is also a type of fungi. The members of Phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats and on decaying wood in moist and damp places, or as a obligate parasites on plants. Means they are called as saprophytes also because they depend on decaying wood. Sometimes they are parasitics, means they are obligate parasites on plants. They found in aquatic habitats, and the mycelium is aseptate and choanocytic. We have learned earlier about choanocytic. Choanocytic means what? They have multinucleated cytoplasm. This is called choanocytic. The mycelium is aseptate and choanocytic. Asexual reproduction is by zoospores motile and aplanospores non-motile. These spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. A zygospore is formed by the fusion of two gametes. These gametes are similar in morphology, means isogamous, or dissimilar, anisogamous or oogamous. Some common examples are mucor, rhizophos, bread mold, albugo, parasitic fungi on mustard. So here you have to keep in mind about these are the aquatic habitats, depend on decaying wood, sometime as parasites on plants. Next question may be asked from here. The mycelium of Phycomycetes, this is mycelium Phycomycetes is aseptate and choanocytic. Next is asexual reproduction by zoospore. Zoospore is motile and aplanospore is non-motile. So you have to see here very minutely about zoospores and aplanospore. Zoospore is motile, aplanospore is non-motile. These spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. The spores are produced in sporangium, and the zoospore formed by fission of two gametes. Then the similar gametes are called isogamous, and dissimilar gametes are called anisogamous or oogamous. The most common example is mucor. First is mucor, second is rhizophore. Rhizopus. Rhizopus means what? Bread mold. Then next is 𝐼𝐬𝐴. 𝐼𝐬𝐴 is a parasitic fungi on mustard. So the examples of phycomycetes is very important. You have to keep in mind. It has mucor, rhizopus, a bread mold, 𝐼𝐬𝐴, a parasitic fungi on mustard.